All right, welcome to the Chapter 12 Geometry Honors Castle Project. So here we go. Don't you wish during this time, so we are spending so much time in our homes, don't you wish that you had a castle like this with a nice lake around it to walk around with plenty of space and imagine it decked out with more rooms than you could ever imagine? Well, we can dream. Even if we can't have it, we can at least calculate the surface area and volume of what we would have if we did have it. And so that's what we're going to do with this project. In the next couple of slides, we'll go through the details to the project so that you know what to expect. All right, so here are the guidelines for this project. The big goal of the project is to calculate the total surface area and the volume of a castle's blueprint. In the next slide, I will show you an example of one of these blueprints and what it will look like. But we are going to calculate the total volume and the total surface area. So here are those specific details. First, you are going to need to pick a castle template. I'm going to give you 3 options to choose from, or you can design your own based on guidelines. If you decide to design your own, I do have guidelines for the basic requirements, but as long as you meet those, you can be as creative as you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be a castle. Maybe it could be a mansion or a city blueprint or a robot. As long as it meets the guidelines, I actually don't care what shape it is. So next up, I'm going to allow you to choose to work individually, or you can work with one partner. This is important. You can work with one other person and one other person alone. So if you have a group of 3 or 4 friends, I'm sorry, you will need to split up and work separately. So you'll see in the template as we go that you will actually take the template and put your own measurements and your own numbers on the castle. And I do have a note in there that if I see the similarities in the same numbers across multiple people and multiple groups, that you will lose points for that because I only want you to work either by yourself or with one person. All right, bullet point number 3. So you are going to use surface area and volume formulas and concepts to calculate the surface area and volume of the total castle. And in order to make that more manageable and to stay organized, a big component of this, which is the 4th bullet point, will be recording your calculation. So in the next slide, you'll see that this castle has multiple towers and it has a main section, and I will break the work up by the different towers the different towers and the main castle so that you can stay organized and that I can see all the different pieces. And then lastly, you need to show your work. This is very important. I need to see your calculations. I need to see what parts you included, what parts you left out, especially for surface area. And then you are going to submit your calculations, your final surface area, and your final volume in the project packet. It will have all of that work laid out for you. And then that packet and all of your work and all of your answers is what you will submit to Schoology by the due date, which I will give to us later. And those are the different project guidelines. In the next slides, we're going to look at a template and then look at the grading. So this is a template of what one of the castles is going to be. This is one of the 3 options that you're going to be given. And granted, the first thing you might see is a bunch of red boxes. What these boxes are is those are places where you are going to need to put a measurement in. You need to say what the measurement of that side is, and then you're going to use those calculations. And so what you can see is this specific template has been divided into Tower A, B, C, and D, and then the main castle. In the project packet, there will be a place to list the measurements that you chose for each tower. And then there will also be a place to record your calculations and your final answers for each tower in the main castle as you choose to add these together. Now, a couple of important things to point out, and I can give some different tips as we go, is that when you're calculating surface area, a big thing to remember is that surface area is only the area of what's exposed. So for example, Tower D, the place where the cylinder and the cone come together, that circle at the base between the cone and the cylinder is not exposed to the outside. And so that is not something that you would want to calculate in your surface area. If you included that, that would lead to a wrong answer. So be sure to double check with this. And if you do have questions, I can help you if you're not sure what to include and what not to include. So this is one of 3 templates. You can choose your favorite, and then once you choose that template, you will do all of your work and design on that. And I have the different answers set up so that I can plug your numbers in and it will give me the correct answer. I've set up those formulas for the different castles. And so then you can use your own numbers, you can pick your template and design your castle from there. And then if you want to design your own, this is an idea of kind of where to get started and what the visual might look like. And I can help you along the way with that as well. So next up, let's look at grading. In the next slide, I'm going to show you the rubric that we'll be using for this, but here's a couple of key points. Your total score will combine the accuracy of your final surface area and volume and also supporting calculations with your work shown. So big thing to remember, number 1, you are required to show work for calculations to earn full points. So if you are someone who can do this in your head, you will not receive full credit for this if you do not show your work. Your answers should be rounded to the tenths place. So to make it easier for all of us across the board, rather than using pi and leaving it in pi or square root form, I do want you to multiply those in and round to the tenths place. And then I will look at your sub calculations. So even if you don't have the full calculation correct, if you have parts along the way, I can help you identify errors along the way. So I'm not going to talk through every piece of the rubric, but this gives you an idea to see what the project guidelines are here. So there are 3 categories and then the extra credit category. The accuracy of your surface area calculations, accuracy of volume calculations, and then evidence of supporting work. Surface area is going to be more complicated than volume, so it does count for some more points. 15 points in total if you did your surface area calculations completely correct, and 10 points if you do your total volume calculations completely correct. And then 15 points are put on your calculations, the work that you showed behind them. And so I want to see the work that you did, whether you used formulas, whether you added together different pieces, whatever the work is that you did, I need you to show it. And so full credit, 15 points, will show all of your work and the methods that you use to calculate volume and surface area. Lastly, let's say you just choose to design your own castle, building, city, robot, whatever you want to design. The maximum of extra credit points you can earn is plus 5 points, and it is out of 40. So you could earn a 45 out of 40 if you designed it and did everything correct, which is an awesome extra credit opportunity. But I do recognize that there is a lot of work involved and a level of creativity, and I recognize some people might not want to do that. So I will go over the guidelines on the next page if you are interested to see that. If you have all of the guidelines, and 5 points will be awarded for pure creativity. So if it looks just like a plain castle, you just drew a different one, you'll probably get somewhere around 3 points or 2 points as long as you cover the features. But if it is creative, if it's innovative and different, you can earn up to that maximum of 5 points. So at this point, this is the end of the description of the project. We've gone through the guidelines, we've looked at an example, and then we have looked at the rubric and the grading. So then I am going to next talk about due dates, and then if you are interested in designing your own, I will go over the guidelines in the slide right after that, so you can tune into that. All right, this part should be pretty self-explanatory. The project is going to be assigned at the beginning of this next week. So for period 3, that's Monday. For period 4 and 6, that's Tuesday. And then the project will be due 1 week from when it's assigned by midnight. So period 3, that's Monday, May 11th by midnight. Period 4, that is Tuesday, May 12th by midnight, or 11:59 p.m. to count it on time. So that is our assigned dates. And then if you're interested in making your own, the next slide has guidelines. If not, that is it for this project. Look for the project packet, and then we'll go from there with more guidelines. All right, here are the parameters around designing your own castle, city, mansion, maybe it could be a creature or a robot. It actually does not matter to me that it doesn't have to be a castle as long as it meets the requirements. So this is the bare minimum of what it needs. It needs to have at least 2 prisms, it needs to have 2 cylinders, it needs to include 1 sphere or hemisphere, it needs at least 1 cone, it needs at least 2 pyramids, and then it needs 1 central base. And this is in addition to the other things. So your base, some central kind of mass big piece. It could be a prism, like the example shown earlier. It was a rectangular prism for the main castle, or it could be a cylinder. And then there does need to be at least 2 combinations of stacked shapes. So a tower made with a cylinder and a cone on top, or a torso made out of a rectangular prism and a rectangular pyramid. It needs at least 2 different combinations. You can't just have a city with a bunch of shapes. So these are the requirements. If you want to do something and you're not quite sure it's within the guidelines, ask me and we can go from there.